Welcome to another grow a garden video. Whenever you make a food and grow a garden, that food can become different types of rarities. As you guys already know, it can be normal, legendary, divine, prismatic. In today's video, I will show you how to make all of the foods transcendent using transcendent recipes. Let's get stuck right in. This is a recipe book. I'm going to go through all of the recipes in the game and showing you the transcendent recipes, starting with a candy apple. So what I really recommend you using for a transcendent candy apple is going to be a sugar apple with a candy blossom. So that is going to be a recipe transcendent for the candy apple. Sugar apple with the candy blossom. Let's move on to the donut. So for the donut, what you want to go ahead and do is this. So for the icing, candy blossom. For the bread, what I recommend you doing is sugar glaze. And for sprinkles, another candy blossom. So that's going to be a very good recipe for the donut being transcendent. We now move on to the ice cream. For transcendent ice cream, you want to choose sugar glaze with a candy blossom. So that's going to be for the ice cream. If you want a transcendent salad, grand tomato, what I really recommend you using is a grand tomato with a beanstalk. So that will make a transcendent salad. We now move on to soup. So soup, as you can see, you just want to put in any plant. So any plant in the game what is high rarity, you just want to put in. And that will give you a prismatic soup, as you can obviously see. So any of the plant what you see here, you can just put in. And if it's rare, it's obviously going to be transcendent. So now what we're going to do is move on to spaghetti. So for transcendent spaghetti, grand tomato, sugar glaze, then the bone blossom, and then what I really recommend you doing is a beanstalk. Or you can even use the grand tomato if you wish, and that will give you a transcendent spaghetti. We now move on to the sweet tea. So for a transcendent sweet tea, what I recommend you doing is this. So we actually got the option to choose a candy blossom and 2 candy blossoms, okay? So just 2 candy blossoms that will give you a transcendent sweet tea. So 2 candy blossoms. If you want a transcendent smoothie, I recommend you doing something like 1 sugar apple, 1 coconut, and 3 bone blossom. That is working for a transcendent smoothie. If you want a transcendent porridge, I recommend you using something like 1 banana, 1 tomato, 1 sugar glaze, and 2 bone blossom. Or you can even do 1 mango, 1 tomato, 1 sugar glaze, and 2 sugar apple. So those are a few recipes where you can use for a transcendent porridge. You want a transcendent sandwich. You want to do 1 corn, 3 elderberry, and 1 tomato. We now can move on to a transcendent pie. What I recommend you doing is 1 pumpkin and 4 bone blossom. Or you can even do 1 coconut and 4 bone blossom. We now move on to the waffle. The waffle is going to be 3 sugar apples and 2 coconuts. But keep in mind, that can also make the smoothie. If you want a transcendent hot dog, 1 violet corn and 4 bone blossom. Now what we can actually go ahead and do is this. So we now can move on, guys, to the next recipe. We now move on to the transcendent pizza. What I recommend you doing is 1 beanstalk, 1 banana, 3 bone blossom. What we now can go ahead and do is move on to the next recipe. The next recipe is actually going to be a transcendent sushi. You can do 1 corn, 1 violet corn, 1 bamboo, and 3 bone blossom. We now move on to the cake. A transcendent cake is actually going to be 1 banana, 1 sugar apple, and 3 bone blossom. We now move on to the burger. 1 sugar glaze, 1 grand tomato, and 3 bone blossom. And as long as you guys follow everything what I showed you there, you can make any food recipe in the game transcendent. Thank you for watching, and peace out.